The Houston Rockets entered the 2025-26 season with championship aspirations written across every decision made during the offseason, but the journey began with a devastating blow that would test the resilience of their reimagined roster. On September 22, 2025, during an unofficial team minicamp in the Bahamas, starting point guard Fred VanVleet suffered a torn right ACL, an injury that would sideline him for the entire season and fundamentally alter Houston's trajectory before a single meaningful game had been played. The 31-year-old veteran, who had just signed a 2-year $50 million extension with a player option for the 2026-2027 season, represented far more than statistical production for a team that had risen from 22 wins to 52 wins over the previous 2 seasons. His steady presence, defensive intensity, and ability to control tempo had been instrumental in Houston's transformation from lottery team to the Western Conference's 2nd seed, and now the Rockets would need to navigate an entire campaign without their floor general. The blockbuster acquisition of Kevin Durant from the Phoenix Suns on June 22, 2025 had already positioned Houston as a franchise willing to exchange future assets for present championship viability. The trade package sent Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and a complex assortment of draft picks to Phoenix, including the Brooklyn Nets 2025 first-round selection and 5 second-round picks. Durant's arrival represented the largest trade in NBA history by sheer volume of assets exchanged, and the message was unmistakable. The Rockets believed their young core of Alperen Sengun, Ime Thompson, and Jabari Smith Jr. had matured to the point where adding a transcendent scorer could vault them into legitimate title contention. At 37 years old, entering his 18th NBA season, Durant remained one of the league's most efficient scorers, having averaged 26.6 points per game for Phoenix the previous season while ranking in the top 6 in scoring. His game had aged with remarkable grace, maintaining the unguardable shooting touch and basketball IQ that had defined his career while adapting to reduced athleticism through craftier positioning and shot selection. The season opener on October 21, 2025 at Oklahoma City's Paycom Center provided immediate validation of both Houston's potential and the challenges they would face without VanVleet. The Thunder had unveiled their championship banner and received their rings before tip-off, but the Rockets pushed the defending champions to double overtime in a game that showcased the franchise's competitive spirit even in defeat. Durant scored 23 points with 9 rebounds in his first official game wearing Houston colors, though the Oklahoma City crowd greeted his every touch with cascading boos, their collective memory still bitter about his 2016 departure to Golden State. The game became historic as just the 6th opening night in NBA history to require double overtime and the first since 2005. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, sealed the victory with 2 free throws with 2.3 seconds remaining in the second overtime, finishing with 35 points after managing just 5 at halftime. The closing sequence contained a controversial moment when Durant, with the score tied at 115 in the final seconds of the first overtime, grabbed a rebound and appeared to call a timeout that Houston did not possess. The Thunder players noticed and attempted to alert the officials, but crew chief Zach Zarba later confirmed that none of the 3 officials saw the timeout signal, allowing play to continue into the second overtime period rather than awarding Oklahoma City a technical foul in possession. The loss established a pattern that would define Houston's early season struggles. 3 days later, on October 24th, the Detroit Pistons visited Toyota Center and escaped with a 115-111 victory, despite Durant's 37-point explosion on 16 of 18 free throw shooting. The veteran forward finally found his range from beyond the arc after going 0 for 4 in the season opener, connecting on all 3 of his 3-point attempts while demonstrating why Houston had been willing to mortgage significant draft capital for his services. Cade Cunningham's 21 points and clutch free throws with 5.5 seconds remaining sealed Detroit's first win of the season, while Houston fell to 0 and 2. The Pistons' J.B. Bickerstaff became the first half of a historic father-son achievement, reaching his 300th career victory alongside his father Bernie's 419 wins to make them the first father-son coaching duo to each accumulate 300 NBA victories. The game featured an intriguing subplot as identical twins Ausar and Ime Thompson faced each other, with Ausar scoring 19 points for Detroit while Ime managed 10 for Houston, offering a glimpse into the challenges facing the younger Thompson brother as he assumed vastly expanded responsibilities in VanVleet's absence. The Rockets finally broke through on October 27th with a dominant 137-109 dismantling of the winless Brooklyn Nets that bore little resemblance to their previous 2 nail-biting defeats. Tari Eason exploded off the bench for 22 points while connecting on 5 three-pointers, establishing a new career high in long-range makes and providing the spark Houston desperately needed. Alperen Sengun contributed 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, orchestrating the offense with the playmaking vision that had earned him all-star recognition the previous season and prompted comparisons to Denver's Nikola Jokic. Reed Shepherd, thrust into a substantially larger role as a second-year player following VanVleet's injury, responded with 15 points and 8 assists, demonstrating the kind of floor command that had made him the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 draft despite playing primarily as a role player during his rookie campaign. The Rockets shot 62.5% in the first quarter to build a 42-25 advantage, then extended an 11-point halftime lead with a commanding 32-17 third quarter that pushed the margin to 103-77. Durant managed 19 points against his former team, while Ime Thompson added 12 12 points and 8 assists in a performance that hinted at his ability to function as a de facto point guard despite his 6'7" frame and limited perimeter shooting. The Van Vliet injury fundamentally altered Houston's identity and forced coach Ime Udoka to reconsider rotation patterns and offensive philosophy. The veteran guard had averaged 14.1 points, 5.6 assists, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.6 steals per game during the 2024-25 season, while serving as the team's primary ball handler and defensive tone setter. His absence created a vacuum that extended beyond the box score, as Van Vliet's ability to initiate offense, manage game flow, and deliver steady leadership had been central to Houston's rise. The Rockets' defense, which had ranked 7th in defensive rating the previous season, allowed 1.9 more points per 100 possessions with Van Vliet on the bench than in the game, a larger drop-off than the offensive decline of 1.3 points per 100 possessions. Statistical projections suggested the injury would cost Houston approximately 4 wins over the course of the season, dropping them from the 4th best projection in the league to 7th in offensive rating and 11th in defensive rating. The team could no longer fill Van Vliet's roster spot with a free agent due to being $1.25 million below the first apron, limiting their flexibility to address the backcourt shortage through external additions. Amen. Thompson emerged as the most fascinating figure in Houston's reconfigured lineup, a player who embodied both the franchise's defensive identity and its offensive limitations. NBA general managers voted him the most likely player to have a breakout season in their annual preseason survey, while also naming him the most versatile and most athletic player in the league. He received votes for best perimeter defender behind only Dyson Daniels and Alex Caruso, and for fastest player with the ball, recognizing the explosive athleticism that made him the 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft. Thompson had earned first-team All-Defense honors the previous season as the only player in the NBA to average at least 1.3 blocks and 1.3 steals per game, using his 6'7" frame, wingspan, and otherworldly athleticism to guard positions from point guard to power forward. His defensive versatility allowed Houston to switch virtually everything, forcing opponents into late clock situations and generating the transition opportunities that remained the Rockets' most efficient offensive weapon. Thompson's offensive development represented both promise and concern as he assumed starting point guard responsibilities. He had averaged 14.1 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game during the previous season, while demonstrating an ability to finish explosive plays at the rim and create passing angles through sheer athleticism. His speed and transition and cutting ability allowed him to thrive without requiring the ball in his hands for extended periods, making him an ideal complement to Sengun's half-court playmaking. The challenge emerged from Thompson's perimeter shooting, which remained a work in progress despite focused summer development. He went 0 for 7 from three-point range in the season opener against Oklahoma City while playing 39 minutes across 2 overtime periods, a stark reminder that defenses could sag off him beyond the arc without fear of consistent punishment. His handle remained raw when forced to create his own shot against set defenses, and his decision-making in pick-and-roll situations still showed the inconsistency expected from a player in just his 3rd professional season. The pairing of Thompson and Sengun in the starting lineup created both tactical advantages and spacing dilemmas that Houston would need to navigate throughout the season. Sengun, entering his 4th NBA season at just 22 years old, had established himself as one of the league's most unique offensive talents. His passing vision from the post rivaled any big man in basketball, allowing him to serve as the hub of Houston's half-court offense while creating open looks through pinpoint deliveries and clever manipulation of defensive rotations. Former NBA star Carmelo Anthony had singled out Sengun as his choice for most improved player and even MVP, noting that Durant had never played with a center who possessed such advanced passing ability. The synergy between Durant's scoring gravity and Sengun's playmaking created nightmarish defensive scenarios where opponents faced impossible choices about whether to double Durant and leave Sengun with 4-on-3 advantages, or respect Sengun's passing and allow Durant isolation opportunities. Sengun had signed a 5-year, $185 million contract extension in October 2024 with a player option in the final year, cementing his status as Houston's franchise cornerstone. His statistical progression had been remarkable, setting new career highs in points, rebounds, and assists while earning his first All-Star selection during the 2024-2025 season. His development trajectory mirrored Nikola Jokic's rise in several respects, with both players arriving as relatively unknown European prospects before revolutionizing their team's offenses through unprecedented playmaking for their size. The Turkish national team showcased Sengun's continued growth during the summer, where he appeared sharper, stronger, and more confident as a lead option. The concerns about Sengun centered on rim protection and individual defense, areas where his lack of elite athleticism and sometimes questionable positioning left Houston vulnerable when opponents attacked the basket. Coaches and opponents had begun targeting him defensively in crucial playoff moments, forcing Houston to consider whether his offensive brilliance outweighed his defensive limitations in high-stakes games. The season stretched ahead with both promise and uncertainty, a campaign that began with devastating news about Van Vliet's injury, but continued with the kind of talent and depth that suggested Houston could weather adversity and emerge as legitimate threats in a Western Conference dominated by Oklahoma City, but lacking overwhelming favorites beyond the Thunder. The games would be played, the chemistry would be forged or fractured, and the Rockets would discover whether their blend of defensive identity, offensive talent, and calculated risk-taking represented a blueprint for sustainable success, or merely another franchise's miscalculation about championship construction in the modern NBA.